The silk of my dress feels like a shroud. Each thread, woven with gold and silver, is a chain binding me to a destiny I am about to shatter. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows of my chambers, the Moonstone Peak Pack is celebrating. Bonfires dot the landscape like fallen stars, and the joyous howls of my future people echo through the mountain air. They are celebrating their Alpha King, Kael, and his chosen Luna, me. A sob catches in my throat, sharp and painful. They think they are getting a pure, worthy queen. They have no idea they are getting a fraud. My reflection in the ornate mirror is a lie. The emerald eyes that stare back are wide with terror, not anticipation. The chestnut hair is styled intricately with pearls, a virgin's adornment for a woman who is anything but. The gown, a masterpiece of white and silver, mocks me. It is the color of purity, of a clean slate. My slate is stained, permanently, irrevocably. He will understand, a naive, hopeful part of me whispers. Kael is kind. His eyes are stern, but they have always been gentle when they look at you. The memory of his gaze, like molten silver, sends a shiver through me. Alpha King Kael is not just powerful, he is a force of nature. He is justice and strength personified. And I am about to present him with my deception. It wasn't a malicious deception. It was one of omission, born from a survival instinct so primal I couldn't fight it. When the Royal Scouts from Moonstone Peak came to my small, struggling border pack, seeking a potential mate for their unmated king, my parents wept with joy. It was a salvation we could never have dreamed of. To have their daughter chosen? It was a miracle. And when Kael himself visited and his eyes met mine, a spark of something electric, something fated, passed between us. I thought the moon goddess was finally smiling upon me. I, Elara, from the insignificant forest howlers, was being offered the heart of a king. I should have told him then. I should have fallen to my knees and confessed everything. But I saw the hope in my parents' eyes, felt the desperate relief of my entire pack, and I stayed silent. The lie began not with a word, but with my quiet acceptance. Now, the mating ceremony is in 2 hours. I will stand under the full moon and pledge my life, my soul, my everything to him. To bind myself to him with a lie in my heart is a sin that could taint the bond itself. It would be a poison that would seep into our future, into any children we might have. I cannot do it. A firm knock on the door makes me jump, my heart leaping into my throat. Elara? It's Kael. May I enter? His voice, that low, gravelly rumble that feels like a physical caress, is the last sound I want to hear. Panic, cold and harp, claws at my insides. This is it. The moment of reckoning has come early. I open the door, my hand trembling on the crystal knob. Kael fills the doorway, his broad shoulders blocking out the light from the hall. He is not in his ceremonial robes yet, just a simple black tunic and trousers that do nothing to diminish his regal power. His dark hair is slightly messy, as if he's been running his hands through it, and his silver eyes, the mark of the royal bloodline, sweep over me. For a moment, his stern expression softens. You look breathtaking, Elara. The kindness in his voice is a dagger to my soul. I open my mouth, but no sound comes out. The words I have practiced 1,000 times vanish from my mind, leaving only a terrified void. He frowns, stepping inside and closing the door. What's wrong? You're pale. Are you unwell? He reaches out, his fingers gently brushing a stray strand of hair from my cheek. The contact is electric, a jolt of pure, agonizing connection. It's this connection, this burgeoning love I feel for him, that makes what I have to do so much harder. Kael, I whisper, my voice breaking. I need to talk to you. Before the ceremony. His brow furrows. Of course. Is it nerves? It's natural to be anxious. It's more than that. I take a step back, putting space between us because I can't think when he's so close. It's about my past. I see the subtle shift in him. The alpha, the protector, the assessor of threats, comes to the forefront. His gaze intensifies, but he doesn't interrupt. He simply waits, his silence more intimidating than any demand. Tears well in my eyes, blurring his handsome, concerned face. When your scouts came, when you chose me, there was something I didn't tell you. Something I should have. Elara, he says, his voice calm but firm. Whatever it is, you can tell me. I wrap my arms around myself, feeling small and exposed in the magnificent gown. 3 years ago, I begin, the words tasting like ash, our pack was attacked by rogues. It was brutal. They took several of us. I was held for 2 weeks. Kael's entire body goes rigid. A low, almost imperceptible growl rumbles in his chest. His eyes harden to chips of ice. Did they hurt you? The question is deadly quiet. I squeeze my eyes shut, the memories flooding back, the darkness, the fear, the feeling of being utterly powerless. Not in the way you might think. I wasn't physically tortured, but the leader, he. I force the words out, the confession I have carried like a brand of shame. He claimed me. He said I was his mate. He marked me. The silence that follows is heavier than any I have ever known. I dare to open my eyes. Kael's face is a mask of stone. The warmth, the softness, is gone. He is entirely the Alpha King. Marked you how? He asks, his voice dangerously flat. Trembling, I turn around and slowly lower the back of my gown, just enough to reveal the top of my shoulder blade. There, etched into my skin, is a small, crude scar in the shape of a twisted crescent moon. It's a rogue's mark, a claim of ownership. The ultimate defilement for a she-wolf. He bit me, I sob, the humiliation washing over me anew. It's not a true mate mark. It has no power, but it's there. I was not untouched when I came to you. I am not the pure Luna you deserve. I am damaged goods. I pull my gown up, covering the scar, the evidence of my shame. I cannot bear to look at him. I stand there, waiting for the blow. For the roar of anger. For the sound of him storming out. For the words that will shatter my world. The ceremony is off. The seconds stretch into an eternity. I can hear the celebration outside, a cruel juxtaposition to the devastation inside this room. Then, I feel his hands on my shoulders. They are not gentle. They are firm, turning me around to face him. I keep my eyes downcast, fixed on the polished toes of his boots. Look at me, Elara. His voice is still quiet, but it brooks no argument. Slowly, I lift my gaze. His silver eyes are blazing, but not with the disgust I expected. They are burning with a fury so intense it steals my breath. But it's not directed at me. Did you go with him willingly? He grinds out. No. The word is a desperate plea. Never. I fought him. I tried to escape. My father and our warriors rescued me 2 weeks later. But the mark, it was already there. His jaw is so tight I fear the bone might snap. He studies my face, my eyes, as if searching for the truth in my soul. I hold his gaze, letting him see all my pain, my shame, my terror. Finally, he speaks, each word measured and hard. You were a victim of a violent crime. You were taken, held against your will, and assaulted. And you believe you have committed a sin? I lied to you, I whisper, fresh tears falling. By omission, I lied. I let you believe I was whole. You are whole, he snarls, his grip on my shoulders tightening. This mark? He gestures to my covered shoulder. It is not a sign of your shame. It is a testament to your survival. It is a scar of battle, Elara. Nothing more. He lets go of me and paces away, running a hand through his hair. The controlled fury in his movements is terrifying. The sin is not yours. The sin belongs to the animal who did this to you. And the fact that you carried this burden alone, believing it made you unworthy of me, that is what angers me. He stops and pins me with his gaze. Do you think so little of me? Do you think I am so weak, so fragile, that the scars of your past could diminish you in my eyes? I am. Stunned into silence. This is not the reaction I had prepared for. Where is the rejection? The fury at me? The ceremony, I stammer. The pack, they will see it as a weakness. A tainted Luna. A dark, predatory smile touches Kael's lips. It is not a kind smile. It is the smile of a king who is about to go to war. Let them try, he says, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper. My decision was made the moment I saw you, Elara. It is not unmade by this. You are still my chosen Luna. You will still be my queen. He closes the distance between us again, and this time, his touch is different. It is not the tentative touch of a suitor, but the possessive, claiming touch of a mate. His thumb wipes a tear from my cheek. Your past does not define you, he says, his voice softening just a fraction. Your strength does. The courage it took to tell me this tonight, on the eve of our bonding, proves that you are more of a Luna than any pure she-wolf they could have chosen. He leans forward, and for a heart-stopping moment, I think he is going to kiss me. Instead, his lips brush my forehead, a searing, protective brand. Get ready, he commands softly. We have a ceremony to attend. And you, my future Luna, have nothing left to fear from me. He turns and leaves the room, leaving me standing there, my world tilted on its axis. The confession is out. The weight is gone. But in its place is a new, terrifying uncertainty. He may have forgiven me, but the pack? The enemies he surely has? My past is no longer a secret. It is a weapon, and it is now in the hands of the most powerful man I have ever known. The real battle, I realize with a sinking heart, has only just begun. The ceremony is a blur of light, sound, and overwhelming emotion. I walk through a path of glowing moonstones, my hand tucked securely in Kael's arm. He is a solid, unyielding presence beside me, his power radiating out like a shield. I can feel the eyes of thousands upon me, their gazes curious, admiring, and some, I am sure, searching for flaws. I keep my head high, as Kael instructed. Do not show them weakness, he had said before we walked out. You are their future queen. Act like it. When the high priestess asks if I accept the bond, my voice is clear and strong. I do. When it is Kael's turn, his voice booms across the sacred clearing, echoing off the mountains. I do. Then, he adds, his eyes locked on mine, I claim you, Elara, not for your past, but for your future. Not for your purity, but for your strength. You are mine. His words are a public vow, a declaration that silences any potential whisper before it can begin. As he leans in to complete the ceremonial kiss, the crowd erupts in a deafening howl of approval. But in the midst of the joy, I see them, a group of elder, high-ranking pack members standing slightly apart. Their smiles are tight, their eyes calculating. One of them, a stern-faced man named Thorin, Kael's most trusted advisor, meets my gaze. There is no warmth there, only cold assessment. The celebration lasts deep into the night. I am passed from well-wisher to well-wisher, my cheeks aching from smiling. Kael never strays far, his hand often finding the small of my back, a silent reminder of his presence. It's during a quiet moment, as we share a cup of spiced wine, that Thorin approaches. My king, my queen, he says, bowing his head slightly. A glorious ceremony. The pack is thrilled. His eyes flick to me. Though there are murmurs. Some are questioning the background of our new Luna. Kael's expression doesn't change, but I feel the tension coil in his arm. What kind of murmurs, Thorin? Nothing specific, my king. Just curiosity. About her previous pack. Her suitability. Thorin's gaze is like a physical weight. It would put such rumors to rest if the Luna were to undertake the rite of the Ascendant. It would prove her worth to any doubters. I feel a chill that has nothing to do with the night air. The rite of the Ascendant is an ancient, dangerous trial reserved for Lunas whose position is contested. It involves a solitary journey through the treacherous starlight caverns, a test of spirit, courage, and strength. Many do not return. Kael's voice is like ice. My word on her suitability is all the proof the pack requires, Thorin. The rite is archaic and unnecessary. With all due respect, my king, Thorin presses, his voice smooth as oil, your word is law. But the heart of the pack must also be won. A public demonstration of her fortitude would cement her place and silence the whispers before they grow into shouts. For the stability of your reign. It's a clever, political move. By refusing, Kael looks like a doting, weak king who is blind to his mate's flaws. By accepting, I am thrown into a deadly game where the odds are stacked against me. I look from Thorin's smug face to Kael's stormy one. I see the conflict in his eyes. He wants to protect me, but he also must rule. Before he can refuse again, I speak up, my voice quieter than I'd like, but clear. I will do it. Both men turn to stare at me. Elara, no, Kael says, his tone leaving no room for argument. If it is for the good of the pack, and for your reign, I will do it, I say, meeting Thorin's gaze squarely. I am not afraid. The lie tastes bitter, but I sell it with a lift of my chin. Thorin's smile is thin and victorious. A brave queen indeed. The rite will be held in 3 days' time. He bows and melts back into the crowd. Kael pulls me aside, his silver eyes blazing. Why would you agree to that? Haven't you no idea what you're facing? Thorin and his traditionalist faction would love to see you fail. And if I don't do it, they will always say I am unfit. They will use my past against you, against us. This is my battle to fight, Kael. You forgave my past. Now let me prove that your faith was not misplaced. He searches my face, his anger fading into a look of grudging respect, mixed with deep worry. You are far more cunning and courageous than I realized, my Luna, he murmurs, his thumb stroking my jaw. But know this. If you are doing this for me, don't. My throne is secure with or without their games. I am doing it for us, I correct him softly. And for the first time, I truly believe it. This is not just about atoning for a secret. This is about building a future. A future I am starting to desperately want. He leans down, and this time, his lips find mine. It is not a gentle, ceremonial kiss. It is a claiming, a promise, and a prayer all in one. It tastes of spiced wine, of power, and of a fear that mirrors my own. As we part, the world seems to have shifted again. The confession was the first test. The rite of the Ascendant will be the second. And I have a terrible feeling that Thorin's murmurs are just the beginning. The next 3 days are a whirlwind of training and terror. Kael, despite his misgivings, becomes my relentless instructor. He teaches me about the caverns, the unstable rock bridges, the subterranean rivers, the colonies of lethal moon bats that react violently to sound. He drills me on navigation by the faint glow of the crystals, on finding edible fungi, on sensing shifts in the air that signal a cave-in. Our days are spent in preparation, but our nights are a different kind of discovery. After the formal celebrations ended, we retreated to the king's chambers, our chambers. The first night, there was a palpable tension. The ghost of my confession hung between us. I stood by the balcony, looking out at the moon-drenched peaks, feeling like an imposter in this luxurious room. You were thinking about it again, Kael's voice came from behind me. He didn't touch me, just stood close, his warmth a comfort. It's hard not to, I admitted. It's not what you planned. He turned me to face him. Listen to me, Elara. I am an alpha king. I have fought wars, brokered peace, and carried the weight of thousands of lives on my shoulders. I did not choose a mate for a pristine history. I chose a partner for a challenging future. What I see in you is resilience. I see a spirit that was bent but not broken. That is rarer and more valuable than any idealized notion of purity. His words were a balm on my wounded soul. He cupped my face, his touch infinitely tender. The past is dead. Tonight is our beginning. Our true beginning. And it was. He was patient, he was gentle, but most of all, he was present. He worshipped my body, scars and all, making me feel not damaged, but cherished. When his lips brushed over the rogue's mark on my shoulder, I flinched instinctively. No, he murmured against my skin. This is a part of you. And every part of you is mine to love and protect. In his arms, the last of my shame melted away, replaced by a burning, all-consuming love for this complex, powerful, and unexpectedly compassionate man. The mate bond, which had been a faint thread, suddenly snapped into place, a brilliant, golden cord of light connecting my soul to his. I felt his strength, his unwavering resolve, and beneath it, a deep, fierce love that terrified me with its intensity. The morning after, I woke up wrapped around him, feeling more at home than I ever had in my life. He was already awake, watching me with a softness in his silver eyes that made my heart ache. The rite is tomorrow, I whispered, the fear returning. You are ready, he said, his confidence absolute. And no matter what happens in there, you are my Luna. Nothing will change that. But as the day of the rite dawns, his confidence does little to quell the dread in my stomach. The entire pack gathers at the mouth of the starlight caverns, a gaping maw in the side of the mountain that seems to swallow the light. Thorin is there, looking impassive. Kael stands beside me, his hand a firm pressure on my back. Remember your training, he says quietly, for my ears only. Trust your instincts. And remember, I am with you. Always. He presses something cold and smooth into my hand. It's a small, perfectly polished moonstone on a leather cord. A piece of my territory. So you remember what you are fighting for. I clutch the stone, its warmth a tiny comfort. With one last, long look at my husband, my king, I turn and step into the darkness. The silence inside is immediate and oppressive. The celebratory sounds of the pack vanish, replaced by the drip of water and the whisper of my own breath. The cavern walls are studded with faintly glowing crystals, providing just enough light to see a few feet ahead. It's a beautiful, deadly labyrinth. I follow the path Kael drilled into me, my senses on high alert. I cross a narrow stone bridge over a bottomless chasm, my heart in my throat. I navigate through a chamber filled with the sleeping moon bats, moving with painstaking slowness. Hours pass. My muscles ache, and fear is a constant companion. It's when I am wading through a chest-deep, icy underground river that I hear it, a sound that doesn't belong. The scuff of a boot on stone. I freeze, my wolf senses screaming. I am not alone in here. Chapter 5. I press myself against the cold, wet rock of the cavern wall, trying to make myself invisible. The moonstone Kael gave me is a hard, reassuring lump in my clenched fist. The sound comes again, closer this time. It's not the random skittering of a cave creature. It's the deliberate, heavy step of a two-legged predator. Thorin. The name flashes in my mind. He wanted me to fail. Did he send someone to ensure it? A figure emerges from a side tunnel, silhouetted against the faint crystal glow. He's large, built like a warrior. He doesn't move like he's navigating a trial, he moves like he's hunting. Well, a rough voice echoes. The new little Luna. All alone. I don't recognize him. He's not one of the high-ranking officials I've met. He's rougher, with a cruel twist to his mouth. A hired blade, perhaps. The Rite is a solitary trial, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. Leave me. He chuckles, a low, unpleasant sound. Oh, I will. Once I'm done. See, you're a problem. A stain on the royal line. A Luna with a rogue's mark? It's an embarrassment. The king might be blinded by pretty eyes, but some of us remember what honor means. So that's it. My past has not just been whispered about, it has festered, creating an enemy willing to kill to cleanse the pack. He lunges. I am not a trained warrior, but the weeks of terror in my captivity 3 years ago taught me one thing: how to fight dirty. I duck under his grasp and slam the sharp edge of the moonstone in my hand into his arm. He roars in pain and surprise, giving me a split second to scramble away. I run. I abandon the prescribed path of the Rite and plunge deeper into the unknown sections of the cavern, driven by pure adrenaline. He is right behind me, his enraged snarls echoing. I can hear his heavy footsteps gaining. He's faster, stronger. I burst into a large cavern, and my heart plummets. It's a dead end. A magnificent, cathedral-like space filled with the most brilliant crystals I've ever seen, but a dead end nonetheless. I turn to face him, my back against the wall. This is it. I have failed. Not just the Rite, but Kael. I have led his enemy right to me. The warrior advances, a dagger glinting in his hand now. Nowhere to run, little Luna. But as he takes another step, a low, earth-shaking growl reverberates through the cavern, so powerful it makes the crystals hum. It's a sound I know intimately. It's the sound of fury incarnate. From the shadows of the tunnel I just emerged from, a massive, jet-black wolf steps into the crystal light. Kael. His silver eyes are burning with a murderous rage, fixed on the warrior. He is in his full alpha form, a beast of legend, every muscle coiled to kill. The warrior freezes, his face draining of all color. Am my king. I was just ensuring the Luna's safety. Kael doesn't even acknowledge the lie. He lets out another snarl and leaps. The fight is brutal and short. Kael is a whirlwind of fangs and fury. He disarms the man in seconds, pins him to the ground, and closes his jaws around his throat. I see the moment the life leaves the traitor's eyes. Then, Kael shifts back. He is breathing heavily, his chest heaving, his body splattered with blood that isn't his. He doesn't even look at the corpse. His eyes find me, and in 2 strides, he's across the cavern, pulling me into his arms. Are you hurt? He demands, his hands running over me, checking for injuries. His voice is rough with fear and rage. I shake my head, burying my face in his chest, trembling uncontrollably. How did you find me? He holds up his wrist, where a matching moonstone bracelet gleamed. The stones are linked. I felt your terror. I felt you were in danger. I broke the rules of the Rite the moment I sensed it. He pulls back, his expression fierce. To hell with their traditions. You are my mate. Your safety is the only law I answer to. He killed for me. He defied centuries of tradition for me. The last wall around my heart crumbles to dust. He said I was a stain, I whisper. Because of the mark. Kael's face hardens. He turns me gently and his fingers trace the scar on my shoulder. Then, he leans down and presses his lips against it, not in pity, but in a powerful, claiming kiss. This mark, he says, his voice resonating with alpha power, is now under my protection. It is a part of my Luna, and therefore, it is sacred. Let anyone who speaks against it answer to me. In that moment, in the blood-spattered, crystal-lit cavern, I am not the broken girl from the border pack. I am not the ashamed woman confessing her sins. I am Elara, Luna of the Moonstone Peak Pack, beloved and protected by her Alpha King. He took my confession and gave me absolution. He saw my fear and gave me courage. Now, he has faced my enemy and given me justice. Come, he says, taking my hand. Let's go home. The rite is over. You have passed. You faced your greatest fear, your past, and you survived. And you faced a physical threat and fought back. No one will ever question you again. As we walk out of the caverns together, hand in hand, stepping back into the sunlight and the stunned silence of the waiting pack, I know he is right. The whispers are dead. The threats have been answered. Kael raises our joined hands, his voice a royal decree. Your queen has faced the darkness and emerged victorious. All hail Luna Elara. This time, the howl that rises from the pack is unified, powerful, and utterly sincere. It is a sound of acceptance. Of loyalty. Later that night, in our chambers, wrapped in the safety of his arms, I finally feel the last of the G. Hosts fade away. I love you, Kael, I whisper into the darkness, the words feeling as natural as breathing. He tightens his hold on me, his lips against my hair. I know, he rumbles, his voice laced with a possessiveness that thrills me. I've loved you since the moment you had the courage to look a king in the eye and tell him your darkest truth. You are the strongest person I know, Elara. And you are mine. The confession that I feared would destroy me became the foundation of our love. The past I was ashamed of became the strength that secured my future. Forgiven, cherished, and loved, I finally found my home in the heart of the Alpha King. The victory in the Starlight Caverns was a sweet, potent tonic, but its effects were not as lasting as I had hoped. In the days that followed, a grim tension settled over Moonstone Peak like a fine layer of dust. Kael's execution of Jarok was officially deemed justified, a necessary act to protect the Luna. The pack howled its approval, but beneath the surface, I could feel the undercurrents of fear and suspicion. Jarok was a mere tool. The hand that wielded him remained hidden, its grip tightening in the shadows. Thorin, the master of political theater, expressed his profound shock and outrage with flawless conviction. Yet, during council meetings, I felt the weight of his gaze, colder and more calculating than ever. He had not anticipated Kael's blatant disregard for tradition, and it had cost him a pawn. He was recalculating. My new life as Luna was a relentless whirlwind. My days were a mosaic of council meetings, petitions from pack members, and lessons in everything from royal lineage to interpack diplomacy. Initially, my voice in the council chamber was a timid thing, often drowned out by the booming assertions of seasoned warriors and elders. But Kael was my anchor. He would sit beside me, a mountain of silent strength, and sometimes, under the polished oak table, his hand would find mine, his thumb stroking my knuckles. It was a simple gesture, but it screamed louder than any words. I believe in you. Emboldened by his faith, I began to speak. I started small, offering insights into the struggles of the smaller border packs, suggesting more equitable distribution of resources before the harsh winter. I spoke of sustainable hunting and the importance of healers in every sector, drawing from the humble, practical wisdom of my old pack. I saw the surprise in the elders' eyes, the raised eyebrows, which slowly, for some, melted into grudging respect. One crisp afternoon, seeking a moment of solitude, I retreated to the royal gardens. I was attempting to memorize the convoluted family tree of the Silvermane dynasty when a movement in the periphery caught my eye. A young she-wolf, no older than T20, hovered near the rose bushes, her hands twisting nervously in her simple tunic. Her name, I would learn, was Lyra, a scullery maid from the kitchens. Luna, she whispered, her eyes fixed firmly on the ground as she curtsied. I beg your pardon for disturbing you. There is no disturbance, I said gently, closing my book. What is it, Lyra? She trembled, unable to meet my gaze. I saw, during the rite, what the king said about your mark. Finally, she looked up, her eyes filled with a desperate hope that shattered my heart. I have one, too. She hesitantly pushed up the sleeve of her tunic. There, on the pale skin of her inner wrist, was a small, faded, but unmistakable scar, the jagged imprint of a rogue's bite. My village was raided when I was 15, she confessed, her voice barely audible. They called me soiled, unclean. No one would court me. My own family, they look at me with pity. But after what you did, after what our king said about your scar being a badge of survival, I thought, maybe I'm not broken. Maybe there's hope for me, too. Tears welled in my eyes as I took her hand, the shared understanding of our shame and survival passing between us like a current. My confession, my greatest fear, had not weakened my position, it had built a bridge. I was no longer just a queen from on high, I was Elara who understood. That evening, as Kael and I shared a quiet supper in our chambers, I told him about Lyra. He listened intently, his expression growing thoughtful. The rot of this purity obsession goes deeper than I realized, he mused, setting down his goblet. We have spent generations building strength of arms, fortifying our borders. But a pack divided by shame and fear is weak from within. Perhaps the true battle we face is not for land, but for the very soul of our people. His words ignited a new, fierce purpose within me. My past was not a cross to bear in solitude, it was a key. It granted me a unique empathy, a channel to the wounded and the forgotten. The frightened girl I had been was receding, and in her place stood a woman beginning to understand her power. I was evolving from Elara, the Luna who had been tested, into Elara, the Luna who healed. The fragile sense of purpose and progress was shattered a week later by the arrival of a single, bloodied scout. He stumbled into the great hall during the evening feast, collapsing onto the stone floor before the high table. The music died. The laughter ceased. 100 pairs of eyes watched as the man, his armor torn and one arm hanging uselessly, gasped a single, chilling name into the silence. Vorlon. The name alone was a blight. Vorlon, the rogue warlord who had carved a bloody, chaotic swath through the northern territories. He was a creature of myth and nightmare, said to command a horde of the most feral outcasts, driven by a fanatical hatred for established pack law and the tyranny of the alphas. And his shadow was now falling over us. He was moving south, towards Moonstone Peak. The war council that convened was a tempest of fear and fury. Thorin was immediately on the offensive, his fist pounding the map table. We cannot wait for this plague to reach our heartland. We must muster the entire army and crush him on the plains of Silverwind. A full-scale, preemptive strike. Other advisors, their faces pale, urged caution. He is a ghost, my king. He strikes supply lines, poisons wells, and vanishes into the mist. A traditional army will be like trying to swat a fly with a broadsword. Throughout the heated debate, Kael remained silent, a statue of grim authority. His gaze was distant, seeing not the map, but the strategies and histories behind the threat. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, yet it cut through the chaos like a blade. Vorlon does not move without reason, he stated, his silver eyes scanning the faces around him. He is a predator, yes, but not a mindless one. There is a purpose here, a target. He is not just wandering into our territory. He is coming for something. His gaze then found mine across the table, and a cold, sharp dread, colder than the mountain streams, trickled down my spine. A memory, long buried, surfaced, the rogue who had held me captive 3 years ago. His leader, a hulking brute with a voice like grinding stones, had ranted about a new order, about tearing down the corrupt and decadent Alpha dynasties. He spoke of a great leader who would unite the rogues and scour the land clean. Later, in the privacy of our chambers, the fire crackling in the hearth did nothing to warm the ice in my veins. Kael confirmed my terror. The scout carried this, he said, his voice gravelly with fatigue and worry. He handed me a piece of coarse, stained parchment. On it, crudely drawn in what looked like charcoal or dried blood, was a symbol that made my breath hitch, a twisted, malformed crescent moon. The same symbol that was scarred into my shoulder. My legs felt weak. It's him, I whispered, the parchment trembling in my hand. The one from my past. His lieutenant, he's with Vorlon. Kael's expression was grim. He's not just with him, Elara. He took the parchment back, his jaw tight. According to the scout's dying words, the warlord who leads this army, the one they call the Scourge, is known for a specific, vile trophy. He marks the women of the packs he conquers, claiming them as spoils of war. His name is Rourke. Rourke. The name was a ghost from my most suffocating nightmares, given flesh, an army, and terrifying poo. RPOSE. He was no longer just a brutal rogue in the dark woods. He was a warlord, and he wasn't just moving south. He was coming for the pack that had taken what he considered his property. My secret, the shame I had confessed in tears, had festered in the dark and now threatened to erupt into a war that would drown my new home in blood. The past was not just chasing me, it was leading an army. The transformation of Moonstone Peak from a thriving kingdom to an armed fortress was swift and brutal. The joyful howls of pups at play were replaced by the grim, rhythmic clang of blacksmiths hammering steel and the shouted drills of warriors in the lower courtyards. Fear was a fog that seeped under doorways and coiled in the pit of every stomach. And with fear, the old, poisonous whispers returned, but now they were laced with a new, dangerous accusation. They slithered through the castle corridors, always just loud enough for my heightened senses to catch. She brought this upon us. The king's choice has attracted a storm. Rourke doesn't raid without reason. What did she do to provoke him? Thorin, the viper in our midst, did nothing to quell them. In fact, he expertly fanned the flames. During a critical council meeting focused on fortifying the vulnerable western ridge, a long forested border, he turned his deceptively mild gaze upon me. Luna Elara, he began, his tone dripping with false deference. Given your unique and unfortunate familiarity with this Rourke, he let the name hang in the air, letting its ugliness stain the room. Perhaps you could provide the council with some insight into his mind? Where would a beast like him be most likely to strike first? Your perspective would be invaluable. The trap was exquisitely laid. Any strategy I suggested would be scrutinized under a microscope of prejudice. If it succeeded, it would be luck. If it failed, the blame would be laid squarely at my feet, the tainted Luna whose poor judgment had cost lives. The question itself was an insidious implication, that my connection to Rourke was more than that of victim and monster. Kael's reaction was instantaneous, a low, warning growl rumbling from his chest. You overstep your station, Thorin. Drastically. But I placed a calming hand on Kael's arm, feeling the tense muscle beneath his tunic. I would not let Thorin make me a silent victim again. I met his gaze across the table, my own voice cold and steady, belying the frantic beating of my heart. My only familiarity, Advisor Thorin, is with his cruelty, I stated, each word crisp and clear. I know he is a coward who preys on the weak. He enjoys fear more than victory and thrives on chaos. He will not test our strongest walls at Blackrock Pass. He will seek to demoralize us, to prove our strength is an illusion. I turned to the large map carved into the wall. He will strike here. The Sunfall Valley. A murmur rippled through the council. The Sunfall Valley was where our youngest, most inexperienced warriors were stationed for their first tour of duty. It was also where the families of the Eastern Gem miners had been evacuated for safety, a place of hope and vulnerability. It's our soft underbelly, I continued, my finger tracing the valley on the map. To him, it will look like an easy victory. Slaughter the green recruits, take the women and children as captives and trophies. The terror alone would ripple through the entire pack, breaking our spirit before the real fighting even begins. A heavy, profound silence fell. My reasoning was strategically sound, but it was born from a place of understanding a monster's psyche, a mind I had been forced to intimately know in a way none of them ever had. It was Kael who shattered the silence, his voice ringing with the finality of a slamming portcullis. Then we will turn his easy victory into a slaughter of his own. The Luna's insight has just given us our first and greatest strategic advantage. He stood, his alpha aura flooding the room, a palpable force of will. The decision is made. We fortify the Sunfall Valley. We move at first light. Prepare for war. As the council members filed out, their faces a mix of resolve and apprehension, Thorin lingered for a moment. His eyes met mine, and the mask of political civility fell away. What remained was not mere calculation, but a spark of pure, undiluted hatred. I had not only defended myself against his insinuations, I had publicly usurped his role as the king's chief strategist. The enemy was at the gates, but in my fight for acceptance, I had just made a deadly and powerful enemy within our very walls. We rode for the Sunfall Valley at dawn, a grim procession of steel and determination. I refused Kael's initial, firm order to remain in the fortified safety of the castle. My presence there is a statement, I argued, my voice leaving no room for negotiation. It shows every warrior, every frightened mother, that their king and queen stand with them. That I am not hiding from the past that hunts us, but facing it, shoulder to shoulder with my pack. He had relented, his pride in my courage warring visibly with the primal, terrifying fear of losing his mate. As we galloped through the winding mountain passes, the mate bond thrummed between us like a taut wire, humming with shared anxiety, fierce love, and an unshakable resolve. The valley was a picture of heartbreaking beauty, a lush, green basin cradled by steep, granite cliffs, now marred by the stark reality of war. The air, which should have smelled of pine and wildflowers, was thick with the smoke of campfires and the sour tang of fear from the refugee tents. The attack came as the sun began to dip below the cliffs, painting the sky in bloody hues, as if in grim prophecy. Rourke's forces poured from the tree line not as a disciplined army, but as a screaming, chaotic horde. Their howls were unnerving, a cacophony of madness and hate. They fought with a feral desperation that our disciplined lines initially struggled to contain. I did not fight on the front lines. My battle was fought at the hastily established triage station, using the healing arts I'd learned in my humble border pack. I cleaned wounds, stitched gashes, and offered sips of water, my touch and my presence a small anchor of calm in the storm of terror. I saw the fear in the eyes of young warriors, boys barely old enough to hold a sword, and in the wide, hopeless eyes of mothers who clutched their children to their chests. Then, I saw him. Rourke. He was a mountain of scarred muscle and matted fur, a full head taller than any other wolf on the field. His eyes, a sickly, jaundiced yellow, scanned the fray with a predatory leisure until they locked onto me. A grotesque parody of a smile twisted his muzzle, revealing yellowed, broken fangs. He began to move, a force of nature cutting a direct, brutal path through the battle, ignoring all other combatants. He was a spear aimed directly at my heart. A primal, paralyzing terror seized me. The memories I had fought so hard to bury erupted. The smell of his unwashed fur, the sound of his grating voice, the feeling of utter powerlessness. The world began to narrow, the sounds of battle fading into a dull roar. But then, through the bond, came a surge, not just of power, but of love, of unwavering belief, of a faith so absolute it was a weapon in itself. Kael, I am with you. You are strong. The spell of fear broke. I stood my ground, pulling the silver-edged dagger Kael had gifted me from my belt. I would not cower. I would not be his victim ever again. I would meet him as a Luna defending her people. Just as he gathered himself to lunge, a black bolt of pure fury intercepted him. Kael. The collision of the two alpha forces was like a thunderclap, the shockwave visibly rippling outwards. Their fight was a brutal, primal ballet. Kael was a storm of disciplined, precise violence. Every block, every strike, every lunge was efficient and deadly. Rourke was a whirlwind of savage, uncontrolled rage, all brute strength and berserker fury. I watched, my heart a frantic bird against my ribs, as they tore into each other. This was more than a battle for territory, it was a battle for my soul, for the future Kael and I were building, for the very idea that love was stronger than hate. In a terrifying moment, Rourke used his bulk to his advantage, slamming Kael to the ground and pinning him. His saliva-dripping jaws opened wide, descending towards Kael's exposed throat. A raw scream was torn from my lips, a sound of pure anguish. And in that moment, I did not charge. I stood tall and I spoke, my voice amplified by a power I never knew I possessed, the combined strength of the Luna bond and the righteous fury of a survivor. Rourke. My voice, sharp and clear as shattering crystal, cut through the din of battle. He froze, his yellow eyes snapping to me, confused by this defiance. You marked me because you wanted to own me. To break me, I cried out, my voice ringing across the valley, drawing the attention of friend and foe alike. But you only forged me into something stronger. You taught me the depth of true cowardice. This man, I gestured to Kael, my voice softening with a love that was my true armor, this king, he is everything you will never be. He is my strength. He is my shelter. He is my home. And you? My voice hardened again, filled with a final, dismissive scorn. You are nothing. Just a ghost from a past I have already conquered. My words were a weapon his brutish mind could not parry. They confused him, insulted him, broke his single-minded focus for one crucial second. It was all the opening Kael needed. With a roar that held the sum of all his love for me and all his fury for the creature who had haunted me, he exploded upward with unimaginable force, throwing Rourke off balance. In one fluid, devastating motion, born of a lifetime of training and the power of a righteous cause, his jaws found their mark. The sharp, sickening crack of Rourke's neck echoed across the suddenly silent valley. The battle was over. The heart of the rogue army had been torn out. The sight of their invincible warlord, dead in the dirt, broke their spirit. What remained of the horde turned and fled, melting back into the dark forest from whence they came. Kael, bleeding from a dozen wounds and panting heavily, shifted back to his human form. He didn't even glance at the corpse of his enemy. His silver eyes, blazing with a mix of adrenaline and profound relief, found me. He walked straight to me, through the carnage, and pulled me into an embrace so tight it stole my breath. He was covered in the grime and blood of battle, but he had never looked more like a king. You were magnificent, he breathed into my hair, his voice thick with emotion. My fearless queen. I held him tightly, the last vestiges of my haunted past dying with the warlord at our feet. I was free. The girl with the shameful secret was gone. In her place stood Elara, Luna of Moonstone Peak, who had faced her demon and, with her king by her side, had saved her pack. We returned to Moonstone Peak not merely as a victorious king and queen, but as living legends. The story of the battle spread like a wildfire fanned by the winds of hope, of how the Luna's courage had turned the tide, how her words had been a weapon as powerful as the king's fangs. The title, Elara the Fearless, was whispered with reverence, completely erasing the last, lingering traces of tainted. I was no longer the queen who had a past, I was the queen because of it. Thorin was waiting for us in the Great Hall, the seat of his former influence. As we entered, arm in arm, he did not merely bow. He dropped to one knee, his head bowed low. It was not the gesture of a defeated politician, but of a humbled wolf. My king, my queen, he said, his voice stripped of its usual cunning, thick with a genuine, shame-filled emotion. I was blind. I clung to dusty scrolls and archaic notions of honor, while true strength and honor stood before me. I sought to protect an ideal and in doing so, betrayed the very heart of what a pack should be. My loyalty, my life, are yours. Unquestioned. Kael looked down at him, his expression stern but just. He gave a single, slow nod. It was not forgiveness, not yet, but acceptance of a surrendered sword. The last internal threat had been neutralized, not by force, but by the undeniable power of truth and courage. The victory celebration that night was unlike any other. It was not just a celebration of a battle won, but of a pack reborn, its spirit purified in the fires of adversity. I saw Lyra, no longer hiding in the kitchens, dancing with a young warrior who looked at her with admiration, not pity. I saw the elders who had once doubted me, now raising their goblets in a toast to our Luna, Elara the Fearless. The sound was thunderous, unified, and filled with a love that warmed me to my core. Weeks turned into months, the sharp edges of war smoothed by the gentle hands of peace and rebuilding. One evening, standing with Kael on our private balcony under the benevolent gaze of a full moon, his arm was wrapped tightly around me, his hand resting in a new, possessive way on my stomach. A new secret, a joyous and profound one, was blossoming within me, the future heir to the Moonstone Peak throne. I have a confession to make, Kael murmured, his lips brushing against my temple. I leaned into his touch, a contented smile on my lips. Another one, my love? That day you confessed your past to me, he said, his voice soft and deep with emotion. The anger I felt, it was not only for the monster who hurt you. It was a fury at myself. A burning, shameful rage that I had not been there to protect you. That you had to endure that horror and its aftermath alone. My love for you, Elara, did not begin in spite of your past. It ignited because of the incredible, resilient, compassionate woman that past forged you into. Tears of pure, unadulterated happiness welled in my eyes, catching the moonlight. The long, painful journey that had begun with a terrified confession in a gown of white had led here, to this pinnacle of absolute peace and profound love. And I have a confession for you, I whispered, turning in his arms to face him, my hands resting on his chest. I think I loved you even then, in that terrible, vulnerable moment when you looked at my deepest shame and saw not a flaw, but a survivor's scar. He kissed me then, deep and slow, a promise that held the weight of our past and the boundless hope of our future. The scar on my shoulder no longer felt like a brand of shame or even just a badge of survival. It felt like a seal, a permanent mark of the journey that had led me to my destiny, to my king, to my home. It was a testament to the unbreakable bond between a queen and her king, a love that had been tested by fire and emerged not just unbroken, but stronger than diamond. We had faced the ghosts of the past, the enemies at the gates, and the doubts within. And we had won. Our happy ending was not a destination, it was the dawn of our legendary reign, a legacy forged not in pristine perfection, but in undeniable truth, unwavering courage, and a love that would echo through the mountains for generations to come.